We're going to transition now, talk a little bit about Facebook and its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, testifying on Capitol Hill later today. He will face questions from the House Financial Services Committee about the social media giant's ambitious plans to create a cryptocurrency called Libra. According to prepared remarks, Zuckerberg will address the company's trust issues. He will say, quote, "When it comes to Libra, I know some people wonder whether we can be trusted to build payment services that protect customers." Zuckerberg will also highlight competition between the U.S. and China, saying, quote, "If America doesn't innovate, our financial leadership is not guaranteed." Joining us right now is Alex Stamos. He is former chief security officer at Facebook and now an adjunct professor at Stanford University. He's also an NBC News and MSNBC cybersecurity analyst. Good to see you, Alex. Thank you for waking up early on the West Coast. Do you think it's been fair or unfair that Libra or Calibra has been targeted the way it has been by regulators?
Well, I think it's fair for regulators to ask lots of questions about any proposal by an American company to massively change how payments work. I think perhaps some of the stuff thrown at Facebook in this case are about totally irrelevant issues, and I think that's going to be actually Zuckerberg's big challenge today, is that a lot of the things people talk about are relevant to things like, what kind of content policy Facebook has. He's going to get questions about political ads, and really none of that has to do with the security and safety of a cryptocurrency. Right. And so he's going to have to try to pivot off of these general concerns about Facebook and try to make it about this actual project that they're putting together.
Strategically, why do you think Facebook led with its foot forward or backwards or whatever, but as the leader of this group, as opposed to when they first came out with it, given that they had so many other companies involved, some of which have now obviously distanced themselves from this effort, but rather than make it a Facebook effort, make it a collective?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think clearly David Marcus, who's the former president of PayPal, who ran the Messenger group at Facebook through an era of really huge growth, he's the brains behind this project, and I think it probably would have been difficult for him to both lead the project and to make it look like it was from somebody else. But I think you're right. I think the rollout was a mistake of having it tied so aggressively to Facebook. There's a world in which you can try to create a subsidiary that's owned by many, many companies that has a much more independent brand, and I'm guessing that if looking back that they wish that they had done something that didn't make it so clear that Calibra, while it has this kind of really strange and bizarre leadership structure, that it clearly is very tied to the Facebook brand. In fact, the idea that Zuckerberg's the one testifying about it is probably a failure right there, right? You don't want Zuck to be the face of your new product. You want it to be Facebook an investor and something that's being helmed by somebody who is seen as totally independent.
Right. To the extent that investors and the rest of the world is going to be following what Zuckerberg says today in his testimony, what is the larger, I don't know if you think of it as threat or risk to the business? I know the conversation is supposed to be about crypto and Libra, but I imagine it's going to go into many other places, given the conversation and speech that he just made about free speech last week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, clearly there's a number of people on that committee who are really looking forward to be able to hit Zuckerberg on whatever their pet topic is about what they don't like Facebook.
Did you see,
Facebook's in a very difficult position right now.
Did you see AOC was on Twitter asking people for questions for him?
Yeah, which I think is actually smart. I mean, I think it's great that she's recognizing that there's a lot of really complicated issues here and that she's crowdsourcing it. None of the responses I saw on that Twitter thread were actually relevant to the cryptocurrency, right? And I think Facebook's in a really difficult position right now. If you become the world's most important communication media for political speech, you will end up with almost all politicians wanting something from you. And you saw that in the Georgetown speech of Zuck kind of begging for the ability for Facebook to stay neutral in these fights, and nobody wants for them to stay neutral. And I think you're going to see a lot of completely inconsistent concerns from the two sides of the political aisle in this meeting. Whether he can bring it back to actually being about a cryptocurrency is going to be a huge challenge. I think one of Zuckerberg's weaknesses in these kinds of situations is he doesn't do well with concerns about Facebook that are more emotional than logical, right? And so there's a lot of kind of directionally correct things that people say about Facebook that are not totally rooted in true facts. And I think he's going to get a lot of that from this panel of people who pushing back against that is a real hard thing for him.
We will be watching today. We appreciate your time, of course, and hope to see you soon.